Welcome to the Airgun show. This week we've got the brilliant new Gamo Phox kit on test, but before that I'm out on a summertime squirrel shoot. Mate, tackling grey squirrels again this morning. Now, these woods are managed as a pheasant shoot, so the main purpose for controlling them is because they munch a costly dent into the grain that the gamekeeper puts out for the pheasants during the winter. Now, obviously, in keeping their numbers down, there are also going to be benefits to the breeding game birds and also to the wild songbirds here and to the trees. Now, as you can probably see, the trees are in full leaf now. There's a very dense canopy which makes it very difficult to spot squirrels out in the treetops. So what I've done is set up a peanut hopper. It's been in position for a couple of weeks now. I know the squirrels are visiting it regularly, so I hope we should be in some fairly busy shooting this morning.
Preparation is the key to success when targeting squirrels at a feed station. I've put in the time to ensure that the squirrels feel confident at the feeder, so in theory, today's session should be fairly straightforward.
Right, I've managed to take a route to the hide that saves me from crashing straight past the feeder, which just helps to cut down on disturbance. Now, I know there are peanuts in there because I shot here yesterday and topped it back up when I finished. Now, I managed to account for 5 squirrels then. They were coming fairly quickly, so I'm confident there are still plenty left to mop up. Now, before I settle in, quick word on the hide, which is very basic. I haven't bothered dressing it with vegetation at all. Now, the point being that firstly, the squirrels are going to be, or hopefully going to be, completely distracted by the urge to get to the feeder. So not going to be paying too much attention. On top of that, this screen's now been in position for a couple of weeks, so the squirrels should be quite accustomed to feeding with it in the vicinity. The only difference is that today, I'm going to be behind the net. Right, let's get dug in.
So, that's the tactics covered. The next job is to make myself comfortable. Although, if the squirrels turn up in the numbers I'm hoping for, I'm not expecting to have to put up with any really long periods of inactivity during this session. And of course, it's on with the head net as usual. The squirrels should be too distracted by the peanuts to take much notice of me, but the additional concealment could make all the difference if a bonus magpie or jay decides to drop in for a munch. I've opted for the legal limit Air Arms Ultimate Sporter today. The position of the feeder gives me a pretty sound backstop, but with the gamekeeper's cottage and a footpath relatively nearby, this isn't really the place for FAC power.
You'll see I've made a couple of cuts into the hide net here just to open up this hole so I can easily get the muzzle through and also have a relatively clear line of sight over the top. Now, what I try to do is keep the muzzle threaded through so when a squirrel ventures out to feed, there's minimal movement to catch their eye as I line up for the shot.
And that's about all I can do to help swing the odds in my favour for now. So, it's time to cut out the chat and let peace return to the woods, so the squirrels feel safe to venture out and feed. The wait for the first shot is often the longest. However quiet you try to be, the disturbance caused by your arrival is unlikely to go unnoticed. Grey squirrels are greedy little creatures though, and rarely turn down an easy meal. And sure enough, it's not too long before the first squirrel of the session clambers down to investigate the feeder. This squirrel is quite content sat stuffing its face, giving me plenty of time to line up a precise shot to the head.
Well, you don't usually have to wait too long once the squirrels have got a taste for the peanuts. And that one was straight down on the grub. It was a nice clean headshot and it's got us off the mark.
It's back to the waiting game. But the resident squirrels are really onto the peanuts, and it doesn't take very long for the feeding station to work its magic once more. Lining up for the shot, I see that we've actually got a pair of squirrels vying for the peanuts this time.
Well, that one probably thought it was being pretty clever when it chased its mate off the feeder. For about 5 seconds anyway. Still, it's another one in the bag for us, and hopefully the other one will be back before too long.
As expected, the squirrel that made a dash at the sound of the last shot soon returns to the feeder.
I delayed for a long time over that shot because I had a feeling it was going to drop down onto the feed tray. But what I think probably happened is it probably caught a glint from one of our lenses because it was just frozen dead still. A good thing about that was it presented me with a nice static target.
This is turning out to be another very productive squirrel cull, and it's not long before bushy tail number 4 shows up. This squirrel is a fidgety one, but there's no point in rushing to take a chancy shot. It's here because it wants to feed, so it's not going to go far before it's had its fill. I'm just going to bide my time until it offers me a still target.
Well, that one actually hung on for a little while before it dropped, but it was just a nervous reflex. It took a very solid headshot, was probably dead before it hit the ground. Now, it was actually a bit twitchy when it turned up, so I just waited for a while for it to grab a peanut and settle down to feed, because you can usually count on them to keep still once they've got something to nibble.
Once again, I'm in no rush to take the shot. This squirrel will stop fidgeting once it's got a peanut to chew on.
Well, they're really queuing up now. Now, it's worth pointing out that although there are plenty of birds singing, we haven't seen a single songbird visit the peanut feeder in the time we've been here this morning. That's pretty unusual, although the fact is that they're probably just getting bullied away by all of the boisterous squirrels here. Now, although protecting songbirds isn't the main purpose of this visit, they're bound to benefit as a spin-off because grey squirrels have a real habit of robbing eggs and chicks from songbirds' nests.
And there's still no shortage of grey squirrels in this small block of woodland. They just keep on coming this morning.
Another greedy customer there. Now, I was planning to make that the last one because Nikki and I both have other things we have to get on with, but there was another squirrel around then, so we'll give it a bit longer just in case it comes back out.
I'm really reluctant to wrap up this session, but at least I get one more chance before we have to draw it to a close.
Right, I reckon that was probably the one that dashed off after that last shot, so we'll call it a day there. But before we do wrap up, a quick word on targeting grey squirrels at feeding stations. Now, it probably does look a bit unsporting, but the crucial thing is that this isn't sporting shooting. It's pest control, and we're dealing with an introduced species which has contributed to the demise of our native red squirrel. They're also very destructive to trees, they're causing problems on the shoot here by stealing grain, and their habit of stealing eggs and young from songbirds' nests has a really negative impact on native wildlife. So I'm quite happy to really keep their numbers down. From this position I've accounted now for 12 in 2 visits, but there are still plenty more to be had, and ultimately the aim is to hammer them down as hard as possible. So I'll keep coming back, keep hitting them hard until we've made a significant dent in their numbers. A brilliant session on the squirrels there, and I'm pleased to say I've already been back and had more. And now, it's the Airgun Show news.
This is the Airgun Show news. Brought to you by the Airgun Centre. The UK has voted to leave the EU, and that'll mean changes to the legal and political framework around shooting. Basque says there will be a significant job of work reviewing many of the systems of regulation that affect shooting, such as game meat hygiene laws. But the association said it would work hard to make sure any new laws are proportionate, accountable and consistent. It said it will keep working with FACE, the European umbrella group for hunters, and it will work closely with whoever replaces David Cameron as Prime Minister. Team Air Arms achieved phenomenal results in round 4 of the 2016 British Field Target Association Grand Prix Series at Quarry Hunters in South Wales, taking 7 top positions in the AA class. Jack Harris scored 46 to win, and Justin Wood was 3rd with 43. The Silhouettes class also saw 7 Air Arms shooters take top 10 positions, with Ian Taylor first. The shooting party has launched its Don't Surrender, Sell campaign to help shooters who decide to hand over their guns with the introduction of airgun licensing in Scotland. TSP boss Mike Herney disagrees with the legislation and is appalled that law-abiding shooters are having to part with property they bought in good faith. He said TSP will buy for cash, at current market value, all types of sub-12 foot-pound airguns from shooters who would otherwise receive no compensation. And finally, the 2017 Northern Shooting Show looks set to be even bigger than this year's highly successful inaugural event, following the completion of a £12 million build which has increased the size of Hall 1 at the Yorkshire Event Centre by almost 1,000 square metres, making it the biggest single event space in the North East. Northern Shooting Show organiser Richard Stokoe said the huge building, which is big enough to swallow up 3.5 Olympic swimming pools, provides the perfect space for exhibitors. The event will take place on Saturday the 6th and Sunday the 7th of May 2017. That was the Airgun Show News.
This week's test gun is part of a seriously impressive package. The Gamo Phox kit includes an air rifle that's evolved from Gamo's hugely successful Coyote, a scope, mounts, gun bag and even a pump, and you get all that for just £499. That really is remarkable value, so let's take a closer look at it. The Ambidextrous black synthetic stock is absolutely brilliant. The long wide forend makes for a really comfortable hold, and the long panels of stippling, which are also present on either side of the pistol grip, are really sharp and tactile. So you're guaranteed a really good grip with this air rifle, whatever the weather. The pistol grip is sculpted for a super comfortable hold, which is further enhanced by the large thumbhole cutaway behind. The high cheek piece is just about perfect when it comes to lining up with the scope, and there's also a very comfy, soft ventilated butt pad. Thanks to the Phox's great stock design, it feels brilliant in the shoulder and overall balance is very good. It measures up at a relatively compact 101 centimetres, including the chunky fitted silencer, and tips the scales at just 3.5 kilos, and that's with the scope and mounts fitted. This airgun feels very solidly built. All engineering is neat and the finish of the metalwork is extremely tidy. One of my favourite features is the long scope rail, which is nice and low to the barrel and isn't interrupted by the magazine, which is neatly housed beneath. Consequently, proper scope mounting is a cinch. Gamo and BSA have very close ties, and that's certainly apparent in the Phox's build quality. It has a cold, hammer-forged barrel, which should really be an advantage when we get round to the accuracy testing. That barrel is adorned with a seriously purposeful-looking moderator, which, apart from really suiting the gun's aesthetics, does a brilliant job of keeping shots quiet. There's more proven BSA technology in the 10-shot rotary magazine. Apart from being very slick and reliable, it's also numbered from 1 to 10, so you know exactly how many pellets you have left in the clip. It also features a small white marker to flag up when you're on your last one. The magazine is indexed by the bolt at the rear of the action, which also cocks the gun, then probes home the pellet into the breech on its forward stroke. That bolt feels very sturdy, but the whole cycle feels extremely smooth, and it performed perfectly during our testing. The Phox features the two-stage CAT trigger system. I really like the gentle curve and wide front edge of the blade, which feels really crisp in operation. Straight out of the box, this one had just the right amount of first stage travel and a very positive and predictable second stage let-off. There's a manual resettable safety catch. You pull it back to make the gun safe and then push it forwards when you're ready to take the shot. In my opinion, it would be safer if it wasn't right in front of the trigger, but there's no denying that it's very easy to operate where it is. The Gamo Phox returns around 65 shots at close to the 12 foot-pound UK legal limit from a 232 bar fill, and you can keep an eye on air reserves via the gauge at the front of the cylinder. Refilling is easy thanks to the quick fill inlet beneath the collar behind the gauge, and of course you're fully equipped for top-ups as this airgun comes with a quality stirrup pump. Apart from that pump, you also get a 3 to 9x40 scope and mounts. It's a surprisingly good little optic with finger adjustable windage and elevation turrets that require no tools to adjust. Its proportions suit the gun very well, and the 3 to 9 times zoom range should cover most airgun work. So, that's an overview of the Gamo Phox kit and its many extras. Let's get on with the range test and see what it can do. Well, the Phox might be an affordable airgun, but there's certainly no questioning its performance. It's a very smooth gun to shoot, and that 5-shot group at 25 metres must fall within 10mm from centre to centre, proving that this airgun certainly has the accuracy to tackle live quarry. Following in the footsteps of the Gamo Coyote, the Phox has a lot to live up to, but it's already more than exceeded my expectations. And when you think that you get a scope, mounts, silencer, gun bag and pump, it really is a heck of a package for under £500. That's all for this week, but we'll be back again in a fortnight. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And if you aren't already a member of the BASC, it's time you joined the organisation that works to promote and protect your sport.